speaking of upset people, this is a story I came across, and one that I'm glad is finally getting the conversation, right? Female educators caught having sex with students more frequently, experts say. And I've talked about this for years. We hear about this now more and more and more and more and more. It's an epidemic of female educators caught engaging in sex with male students. And yet everyone out there just goes back to South Park and goes, nice. They do, even though it's a problem. Anyway, this particular article in question kind of jumps all over the place. It starts off talking about a few key examples, at least one specific key example of a female educator, mother of four, engaging in sexual acts with a few students. And then it goes on to say here that some have downplayed or even laughed off the seriousness of female educators having sex with teenage students, playing into the trope of hormone-driven boys lusting after the women at the front of the class. And it's funny that I read this article today because someone had posted a video clip of Smallville when Clark discovers his heat vision. And it's because there's a teacher during the sex ed class and she's hot and he's really attracted to her. And so then he heat visions all over the projector screen and it literally shoots out. It globs out on the screen and lights it on fire. It's not a direct blast. It was a spurt. And I'm all like, that's really on the nose. You guys equated his heat vision to premature ejaculation, or at least just regular ejaculation. But anyway, it's again, that is the trope of hormone-driven boys lusting after women at the front of the class. Well, the spoiler alert for this particular episode of a 15-year-old show is she's a succubus. Anyway, but many of the prosecutors and people who do work with the abuse say female teachers having sex with male students are doing just as much harm as their male counterparts who prey on girls, and they are. But no one ever talks about that because no one ever wants to look at boys as being the victims. They never, ever, ever do. Look at the Catholic Church, and I'll catch some crap for this one. But the Catholic Church time and time and time again abuses young boys, right? We always hear about that, but we never talk about the safety of the boys. No one ever brings it up. It's always about the priests, which it should be, but it's never about protecting the kids specifically. That never gets brought up. It's never used. Well, what about the boys? No one ever brings that up, and that's the reality. Now, nationwide, 10% of all students experience sexual misconduct by school employees, sometimes between kindergarten and the time they graduate from high school, according to a 2017 study funded by the U.S. Justice Department. It goes on to say that male abusers outnumber female, the study says, but the number of reports of female educators charged with sex abuse of students is rising, not necessarily because there are more women abusing children, but because they're getting caught, some experts say. Now, I'm wondering here if that is just the case, because I have noticed that there's been a slowdown of news surrounding male teachers engaging sex acts with female students. I've noticed that that's slowed down and that it has been increased more with women getting caught abusing male students. That comes up quite frequently. And so that's why I'm like, it's like an epidemic. Now, the study, again, it says that the male abusers are more, but the women are getting caught. Now, that's frightening in and of itself. No teacher should ever have sex with a student. They should not exercise that power over them. And, these things should be called out. They should be busted. However, the study does go on to talk about the types of abusers, and this is interesting. Now, Anna Salter, the psychologist and author who spent decades interviewing, studying, and writing about sexual predators, says there are generally three types of women who sexually abuse children. The first target preschool children, often their own, and the sexual abuse is often tangled up with sadistic violence. These women rarely get caught because the level of violence is so severe, the children are afraid to talk. That's frightening as all hell. The second group of female sex abusers are coerced into sex by their adult male partners. So it's one of those kind of cycles. It's a cycle, right? Where the sex abusers, they were assaulted, they were molested when they were a child, then they turn that around. And for a long time, there wasn't a woman that I met that did not have some form of sexual abuse in their past. And I still think probably every woman that I meet probably does have that. And that is a shame. That's terrible. You never want that. And then I kind of, when I hear about that, when I learn about that from them, in the back of my mind, I kind of classify them into two categories. This is based upon my experiences. This is nothing, but it's like either more promiscuous as a result or less promiscuous as a result, like promiscuous or prude. And I know that's a really odd basis, but for comparison, and it's not in any way accurate, and it's probably completely just something I came up with when I was like a dumb teenager, thinking I was smarter than I am, and that clearly is always the case, that I'm not that smart. And that's kind of how I viewed it. I don't believe that's the case anymore, but this particular section does kind of seem to like hint at that being a thing. Anyway, I would love it for everyone who's ever been abused to get the help, the therapy that they need in order to live productive lives, because there is a part of you that's taken when that happens that you never get back, an innocence that is lost that you never get back, and it's a shame. It's terrible, and you know, so there's that. Anyway, so the third and largest group of female abusers includes many teachers, coaches, and school employees who get caught, saying that they think they love the children. Often the women in the group of abusers are in their mid-30s, married, and have children, and that is true. It's always the weirdest thing for me is like I see these reports come out and I look at the specifics. I look at the specifics of what's being said. You know, oh, it's a mid-30s attractive woman, has 2 children, married or something like that, and yet she's engaging in sex acts with these teenagers. And it leads me to kind of question, to ask myself the question, what was she like when she was a teenager around that age, when she was having her first sexual awakening? Was it she wasn't getting the attention from the boys back then, but now she isn't able to that? Or was she abused back then and now she's able to exercise that power over them by basically luring them into this scenario by engaging in these sex acts and thinking she won't get caught because boys are horny and they want to get down? I mean, there's always elements that go along with it. And in no way am I an expert. In no way am I even remotely qualified to probably talk on the subject matter. I'm merely just giving you my opinion, as I always tend to do, and you guys tend to call me out if I get it wrong. Again, read the comment section. Anyway, moving on, and this is one that's gonna I had to cover it.